murder, incest, and treason, and Chase Bank. This is inside the broker's studio. Today we're going to talk about one of the most famous residents of the city of New York, Aaron Burr. The most notable thing about Aaron Burr is that he killed the first Secretary of the Treasury and founding father, Alexander Hamilton, in a duel right over the Hudson River in New Jersey. They took boats across the river at dawn and they set up to have a duel, and it's said that Hamilton did what's called wasting his shot, meaning he fired away to not hit Burr because he only wanted to show that he was prepared to fight but not really wanting to kill Burr. Burr was prepared to kill Hamilton, and he did. He shot and killed Hamilton. Why did they hate each other? Well, they were rivals throughout their entire careers. Hamilton was George Washington's aide-de-camp and then became the Secretary of Treasury in the first cabinet, and Aaron Burr was always on the outside, and he was always trying to have that type of meteoric career that his main rival Hamilton enjoyed. Burr was the senator from New York before 1879. He lost the senator position, and you have to remember that senators weren't publicly elected at that time. The state senators in the House of Representatives elected the senator. After that, he would run for president. He tied Thomas Jefferson, and at that point, they could each release their electoral votes to each other, and Burr made a deal with Jefferson. He gave him the election, basically, and in exchange, he became the vice president. Well, Thomas Jefferson did not like that. You have to know that Thomas Jefferson's platform was a platform of states' rights versus the Hamilton Federalist Party, which was all about a strong federal government. The Federalists were motivated by having served in the military and having no money to fund the military, so they wanted there to be a strong bank that the new country could control. It wouldn't be at the whims of market forces, and they could pay their army, so they wouldn't get invaded by England again. Jefferson's point of view was that the federal country, they shouldn't try to lord over the agricultural Southerners and mess with their slaves. And this was an issue from the first Congress. Burr was known for having no principles. He would go whichever which way the wind blew. After he gave Jefferson the election, Jefferson hated him for having power and gave him no responsibilities or authority. And Burr just sort of went around. He was known as quite a ladies' man. When his term came to an end, Jefferson said, "I'm going to run for re-election without you." And he nominated Governor DeWitt Clinton, also of New York, to replace him so he would keep the same voting bloc. Well, Burr then hit the road and he went west. Jefferson then charged him with treason and said that he was engaged in a plot to invade the United States of America and ruin the government. Burr really wanted to do, actually, because this was now the time of Napoleon in France, was that he wanted to invade Mexico. And Mexico may have included Texas at that time, but he never actually had an army, a real army. He just had a lot of meetings. And word got back to Jefferson, so they charged him with treason, and he had a big trial, the trial of the century at that time, and he was exonerated. So after he was exonerated for treason, Burr came back to New York and he practiced law. He was always known for being broke. He made a lot of money, he was a senator, he was vice president, but he spent more than he got. At one point, he married the richest woman in the United States of America, whose house is in Washington Heights. It's called the Jumel House. Miss Jumel had been born in Rhode Island, was raised in brothels, was a prostitute. Later on, she became more accepted in society and ended up marrying a very rich man who survived the wedding by 6 months, and after his death, she became the richest woman in the United States. So then Burr went on to marry her. They would then break up shortly thereafter. Another thing to note about Aaron Burr is he had many children, at least 7, and he was purported to be the illegitimate father, according to Gore Vidal, of President Martin Van Buren. He was also purported to have had a loving relationship with his daughter, Theodosia, who was named for his widowed wife, Theodosia, and whom he may or may not have had intimate relationship with. One of the things he did before the duel with Hamilton is he started a company with Alexander Hamilton called the Manhattan Company. And the charter of the Manhattan Company was to provide the city of New York with water, which is why we're talking about it inside the broker studio. The city of New York has water today because a private company called the Manhattan Company created the first water system. It was a terrible company and they had a terrible system and they had to be taken over by the city, thus strengthening the calls for a strong government. Aaron Burr wrote in the charter of the Manhattan Company that the company could do banking, basically. And that company today is known as Chase Bank, the largest bank in America, started by Aaron Burr, the most notable New Yorker of his time. Thank you for joining us this week on Inside the Broker Studio.